I mean, they're perpendicular lines. That means it's not natural, right? If that was a river, why is it so straight? Rivers aren't straight, and you got these perpendicular lines. They don't even touch it. They stop early, and then they have diagonal lines that connect. Something was terraforming this area. Somebody was mining it. Look over here. You can't say that's natural anymore. And we don't have any explanation. This is Chad. This is the Tibesti Mountains.
Hey, and good afternoon, everyone. By popular demand, David Stig Hansen back with us. Remember, he'd gone to the Eye of Africa, the Richat Structure. And then he went back again to take a look at different canals lines, previous shorelines. And what are the stories of the people who lived there? What else did David find? Well, I'm going to ask him some questions that we're going to find out ourselves. You can go over to YouTube, David Stig Hansen, or youtube.com/at STIG Stig. Not a lot of people have been out in this part of Africa or even willing to go and, do what is considered outrageous these days by marching off into the desert in foreign lands and nations in search of information. Because, it seems like there's a lot more information coming out of our ancient history, our ancient past. So, David, thank you for joining. The floor is yours. And here we go, round two. Yeah, that's north.
When you go in
Durban
here,
over there, Durban poison. Yeah.
you see this little chunk, machinas. There's something I want to show you. I don't see a name on it, so I'm going to call it
That looks
Stig's.
like a pyramid. What the hell is that?
It's a freaking pyramid, David. I'm trying
And it
to
looks
get
like a causeway leading up to the pyramid there too, with that bottle-shaped thing.
There you go. That's a three-dimensional shot right there.
Yeah,
And
that's really
I've got
interesting.
some.
That is definitely a step pyramid. Where, what?
And by the way, the
And
line
it's
that
on a
it goes,
causeway too, as you would enter
yeah,
that
it
thing like
follows
an
the
El
line. A
Mirador walking
causeway.
up
There
the
you go. A
causeway.
causeway. I never thought of calling it that before, but that's a perfect way to describe that line. If I
That
could.
bottle-shaped thing is the causeway leading to that
Oh,
pyramid.
you're talking about back here. I was talking
Yeah,
about
you would enter, you would walk up to the pyramid and think about where it's on top of the hill like that. I'm sure the view off there is astounding, and viewing some
right.
celestial,
Well, I was thought you were
alignments
talking
or
about this
times.
line right here.
Oh
This
man, you need to
line.
pin that on the map and put like that is a seriously old pyramid. That's like Bosnian pyramid old kind.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I would definitely pin that on the map
Let's
immediately and
get
put
the
that as
word
like
out
a
there.
super feature right there.
It is definitely a mega structure, right? And you can get in here with the 3D and you can, oops, man, I can't control it. You can zoom in there and you can get a view of it from there. Check that out. Tell me that's not a pyramid up there. It's got these levels, these terraces. Oh, and the ancient terracing is everywhere. It's
Yeah,
just
that is for
crazy.
sure an old pyramid there. That is incredibly so older than anything in Egypt. Wow.
Is that 1 million years old or what?
I don't know, the Bosnian pyramids too. I've been fascinated by that because going over to Croatia and looking around and been
Let's
wanting to get to the Bosnian pyramids for a while as well.
using this, I want to show you a bunch of intersections. Okay, so I showed you the shortcut. So this thing's going to lock up, but when it unlocks, it'll go to the shortcut. I showed you this shortcut. Nearby this shortcut, there's all sorts of lines. This is another ancient intersection that I found. And yeah, you could say that's going to happen sometimes in nature, but when you're talking about again and again and again these lines that are clearly intelligent, and the enclaves that happen right inside here, I do believe they were mining out that content. This one I call the fat one because it has a large, and of course it's slow. Sorry about that. I don't see how you can edit that out. But this one, it shows this big, huge structure in the middle, but it really is like this intersection. And yeah, by the way, when you see these collapses here, that means that's new land that's settled. So you've got this mining, this whole city down here that's modern day is sitting inside that mining enclave. It's got this gutter. Are those roads?
David Brady warns the S&P could nosedive to 1,000 points, erasing 14 years of gains. CEOs like Jamie Dimon have been warning about 70s era stagflation, The 70s were a lost decade for the stock market, but gold and silver exploded higher. From 1972 to 1974, gold gained 240% and silver surged 315%. Call the proud Americans of the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Also, Patriot Gold Group has a no fee for life IRA where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver. No fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Give them a call, 888-546-7020. And now on with the video.
You talked about the machines that could have done that. I believe they ran on those roads. And these
And they would have been 40 foot wide, the base of the machines.
Well, that's hard to say, but here's another intersection. And since I can click on it and it'll go, look how symmetrical that shape is between those two roads. They mined all that out of there. Okay, there's a bunch of these intersections. And the last thing I've got to show you is actually literally mountains. Oh, by the way, that white stuff, I think that was ancient mining slurry. I think that there's a lot of valuable, maybe gold inside that white stuff because it seems to go hand in hand with these intersections. And it's like, it doesn't really, like, how did that get there? And why is it only inside part of the intersection, not the whole thing? Here's another one where you see a little bit of that white stuff, right? Look at that. And everything's a gutter. It's not even a ridge, it's a gutter. And there's this place that's kind of close to that.
Incredibly interesting there.
I call it an ancient intersection of some sort. And I showed you the first picture of all those ridges. Some of them go for 40 kilometers. This whole structure right here, you said, what's the name? This one literally has a road called No Name Road. And here you don't really see the gutters. What you see is like the mountains were sculpted somehow. You see those ridges? Just all sorts of, look at that triangle.
Oh, that, what? That's not that's definitely human form. That you don't get those kind of shapes.
We'll go here one more time using the Google Earth because this I'm closing. It just locks up too much. But yeah, we can go there. I'll show you how to get there. You asked me how to get to the pyramid. So we'll go there first. It's very easy. Make sure everything's north. As you zoom in, it's right down here, this little Mohale's hook. You follow the line, you quickly see this line here. If you need a reference, Mohale's hook is here. Mohale. By the way, it's all on my channel. You can go to my channel and you can see the thumbnails and the titles. You'll find this. There's a line here, up here, and you already see the structure right there.
Mm-hmm.
Show you because
that is for sure. Absolutely. I'm going to go out on a limb, everybody, and say that is one of the oldest pyramids on the planet that it has anybody to validate that it's a pyramid. I mean, that alone changes Earth's history and civilization. Nobody wants to touch that with a 50-foot pole because we have to rewrite everything about humanity if that indeed is a provable pyramid where they can find chambers in there. Right, with the Bosnian pyramids too are mountainsides.
Oh, you mean this thing? Yeah, up here. This thing is in This thing is in Lesotho right there. And by the way, so what I see is I see two ridges in a parallel fashion going into the mountains. You see it here. Now, believe it or not, this one stops here and cuts over and starts and there's an intersection. And then it, like, if you can see, almost a rectangle here.
Yeah,
but on
perfect
the other
rectangle.
side,
Not perfect, but interestingly rectangular.
This line turns this way and goes here, and this line keeps going straight. So now the ridges are on other sides. It's just chaotic. So it doesn't make sense. But yeah, Mohale's hook, old Mohale's hook. Oh yeah, there you go. So you've got the new Mohale's hook, and you've got the old Mohale's hook over here. Is that a city? I guess. And then look at that straight line. It's like, what created that? Obviously not Mohale. And it's got a nub, although that nub is a little bit raw, and you follow it over and you got yourself a pyramid. I've seen enough to know that this is not natural. Somebody was doing something. I believe that most of this stuff was mined away.
You're looking at, oh, that's interesting too. It looks like a square too, the way the mountain was cut into. Huh.
So you wanted one more of those, and I have one up here that I was just discovering. Let me just zoom in and show you something. Now, this is another rectangle. two 90-degree angles here, parallel lines. They're not exactly straight over here, but it turns into almost a perfect rectangle. 1,000 yards wide. That's the same as Mohale's hook. But do you see this line right here? That line connects another, I call those channels because there's two ridges. There's another one right here it connects to, right here. And these lines, they're not perfectly parallel, but now I had it nailed that I could find that other pyramid for you, but I have to there it is right there. Check this out. Now I think that looks similar with you called the back end. What did you call that? And then you got the
Causeway
front
coming in.
causeway. Yeah. But
Well,
here,
can you
check
do
it
that
out.
3D side view that you did before with the other one?
I
It'll
can
be able to
try.
see if it truly is or not.
That's 2D and that's 3D right there.
Can you spin it on a little bit down so it looks? Yeah, and then you have to ask yourself, is that a remnant pyramid? That looks very Bostonian pyramid style, where the actual mountain was the pyramid that they carved the entire mountain out to make the pyramid.
Right. And that's the thing. I think, by the way, I can show you
That's also very interesting in itself there.
well, also this terracing around it. I don't know if that's modern day, but I can show you a lot of examples of this terracing that's like, were they using it? It's all over the
It
mountains.
almost, as Stig, stop for a second. It almost looks like that thing you showed me in the canyon where you had that one round circle with the indentation in it, and then you had that smaller circle to the north. Because remember when you oriented those things north-south, and
Right,
you're
right. What is the angle? And by the way, the heading is here. And you know, you look at the compass and you see that same angle. Now maybe it's supposed to be like this. Well, at that time, what would have been facing the equal day? I'm sorry, the vernal equinox. Sorry, the vernal equinox. Maybe that faced the previous vernal equinox. It's not exactly where it was before, so I don't like to jump to conclusions. I know a lot of people, they're very quick to say, oh, there you go, that's the evidence right there. I'm not seeing it. I'm not going to tout it, but what you do see is a line going right through it. There's so much I have to show you next.
I'm sorry, can you turn that around so the little piece is at the very top facing what is today's direct north? If you can spin that around a little bit.
Well, today's north is here. That's north. So that's
okay.
so if you're
So
going
it's
to
off.
say what I think is happening, I think that's probably what was happening with the mounds in the Grand Canyon and the mounds that I still going to show you that are parallel to the same axis in the Grand Canyon. But let me say one more thing about this whole area. We've got lines, okay, and we've got this line here. Check out this line. I just discovered this. I've never put it anywhere. Look at that line right there going through here. Just a line, you know, you got the terracing, you got these weird nubs along this line. Ancient terracing for as far as I'm concerned. I don't believe that's in modern day use terracing. From what I've seen, some of this terracing's been abandoned and it gets covered. So you see like a landslide going over the terracing, which is older. The terracing's older. So some of this terracing,
sure.
yeah, we see terracing all over the world. But that line was something that I just found. And so I wanted to show that. And it's right next to that mound that was right over here. You follow it back up and you find that other mound right there. And right next to the mound, you've got an ancient intersection right there that's kind of messed up. I mean, these lines are going everywhere. Okay, let's get out of here. I want to show you, we've got so much to see up here by the Richat structure. I think that one of the things that I need to remind, okay, let me follow through with the quarries and the Rashad. But before I do, I want to show you this Cal Topo. This is New Mexico, right on the Continental Divide goes right through here, and it goes right through here. And these ridges, I went and visited. I didn't realize this one was so big because this software is brand new. I've been using this Cal Topo shaded relief, and you don't put anything else in there. Sometimes you need to put the global imagery to see, but look at this line. It's coming from the mountains. And I believe it was about water control because it's on the Continental Divide. But the one down here was bigger. This is in Pie Town, New Mexico. It starts from these mountains. It has what I call a switchback. So you've got like these dams, these ancient dams, just like the ones I showed you in the LiDAR. A switchback here, here, and then it goes over here and hits this other mountain. It's got a parallel ridge next to it here. I drove right there. and then it cuts back over here and goes around. It's just impossible. And then over here on the other side of the plateau, you've got more. I didn't know about these until I saw the Cal Topo. And these types of ridges are all over North America, especially along, like you've got this mountain here, and I'd say, oh,
Oh,
it's
it's
a
a volcano.
natural
That's an
mountain.
extinct volcano, it looks like.
Well, except why is it right next to the line? Maybe it's overburden dumping. There's another switchback, and it just goes on in New Mexico. But yeah, and by the way, I didn't even see that. You know what I see here? I see a mound on a plateau. I can show you those in Utah. They're the same axis as the ones that I'm about to show you. And we can use this to go over to the Richat structure. Let's go over there right now. I want to get to the Richat. We have a half hour left. I totally worry that we don't have enough time.
To just continue on with this, because I'm interested in the North Shoreline where I can absolutely guarantee that it would be a harbor and a port previously. Yeah, that part right there where you come in
Look
off
at
the
this
ancient
part right
shoreline
here.
and you got that wrapped part pouring over to
This
the
is
west a
the
little more, follow the
this
ancient sea line. No, that's too small. Right there, way to the left of the photo.
you've got a canal that's 4 kilometers long right there that goes
Yeah, you
to the
see,
side.
I mean
And this
that's for
curve right
ships.
here, you've got a canal here. I can show you canals. The ancient Tamanrasset River. People say, oh, there was nothing there. How could it have water? Well, Randall Carlson says that this plateau was lifted. Okay, and when it comes to over here, I can't understand how it's possible. This shoreline right here, I don't know how it was formed because there's nothing could have encompassed, but I do believe this whole thing was machined on top. All this is ancient mining and machining. I believe that in my heart. And the content, where was it dumped? That's a good question. Okay, let's back out so we know where we are because the Rashad structure's up here, right? I want to show you some stuff up there. But the first part of my trip was focused right here. The city of Attar is down here, and you have to climb the mountain to get to the top. And what you have here is the highest point in the Richat structure, the highest point in the Adrar Plateau. But what you see is these quarry lines, parallel quarry lines here. You can see it in the Caltapo right here going across here. They were removing this content. These are the parallel canals. They go on for 10 kilometers each. I walked down this canal. There's trees growing in there. And there's the parallel one over here that I've never visited. Again, has that fine, distinct line right in the middle. I don't see how water erosion could have created that. But right here at the top of the highest point, there's 2 peaks. And those 2 peaks are what I went to. I visited that. What I did was I drove right here and I drove right past both of these peaks. Let's take a look at the Google Earth. Let's get out of South Africa.
Yeah, and one question for you, Stig. I'm wondering, we're so focused on gold. Was there any other element that they might have been mining other than gold that maybe we don't know how that used technology or that was more required for, I don't know, a different civilization than we understand today? Because we're kind of brainwashed into we need to explode it, break it, or do a different way to extract it. So
I
if we're
only know
thinking
what
that
I
way and
can
we're so
see.
far off kilter of using the Earth's magnetic field to generate electricity, would it not make
I
sense that
try
they
to
would be
avoid
using different
jumping.
minerals?
I mean, look, we know the Anunnaki story. That was about gold. How would it not be about other nutrients also? Silver, platinum, all these other nutrients. I was panning gold myself. I've been watching some gold panning, and I grabbed some sand out of the desert. And I could see gold in that sand, but it's too small. It was probably worth $1. But there's gold everywhere. The question is, how do you get it? Wait, let's go back to the Grand Canyon and look at those 2 mounds I showed you over here. And let's align those 2 mounds. There's a peak there and a peak there. Let's align that. Let's make sure we're 2D. Let's go back to 2D. There we go. And that's north, right? But the mounds, if we align them, so let's just do this like that and put one. Dang it, I'm not doing that on purpose.
You call that
Okay,
Frosty the Snowman.
yeah, it's Process Snowman. That's the Grand Canyon. Now look at the compass and look at the degrees right there. Now let's go back to the Richat structure, and these 2 mounds, I align them the same way. Look at the compass. Look at the degrees right there. I even have one more that it's in Utah. It's in Utah. They're right here. I'm just going to show you a picture of them. Look at those two mounds. They actually align the same way. And these are two mounds on top of a plateau in Utah. So that was an ancient axis, in my opinion. I don't know how long ago, a million years maybe. Let's move that back over. But let's focus on these two mounds here. So this is the Richat structure. There's your northern shore. It comes over here. And by the way, right here, you see a 30-mile long straight line cutting through the mountains, basically. Right south of it is I call this Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Sorry. Now, this little tiny part that's darker is the highest point. When we zoom into these two little mounds, you can see what I could see from the ground. You see that line? That is a major cut through in that mound. I was down there on that road. You can totally see it. Check out my video. I got the shot, baby. I got the shot. And then I drove down here to this mound, and I could see that cut through. It's right there. I got the shot, man. It was a little farther away. I didn't have time to climb those mountains. The desert is vast, man. I didn't want to. There's a little road right here that went up to the top. I didn't want to go that, maybe in a future trip. But what you have is a cut through that goes up to the highest point and stops right about there. On the other side, more cuts. Are they perfect lines? No, but would you say those are natural, or are those cuts? Take a look at those lines.
Yeah, they're very right there. You go look at all those in a row. I mean,
you can see them everywhere.
For me, it doesn't look natural.
I really, in my opinion, I've actually put lines over them all. And in my opinion, those are not natural. This is right between the two parallel canals. I think that was flood control. I think there was a shore here. Now, let me talk about one more thing. Two mounds and the fact that they're aligned with what appears to me to be overburden dumping. And when you look at this ridge here, and there is a picture of it up close, I'm going to find that picture. The picture shows basically overburden dumping, what it looks like after years and years. In my opinion, that plateau right there was older. And then something was dumped right across the top of it. So there was some major megalithic terraforming going on here, in my opinion. And Jimmy from Bright Insight was really interested in these ridges. And he thinks that they're evidence that water flooded through there. I have no problem believing that. There was major water events through here. So when we go back into Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and look at this area, there's so many smoking guns that really shows you the two mounds and the cuts through them, the parallel canals, and the fact that they're not only parallel, but they're about the same, in my opinion, the same depth, about 15 feet, not shallow. This ridge, even up here, down here, it's a lot more prominent. And over here, these cuts seem like it was a major quarrying project. I can show you more lines like that in a minute. Before we navigate away from this and I show you those quarries on the North Shore, I want to show this. Those are the two mounds that I went to. I could see this, but it was literally like, that's a long distance away.
I bet it is. I bet that's like very far away.
And it's also a long time, but do you see how it's aligned? This ridge that's going along the top here goes all the way over, and then there's another quarry. However, if you look closely, the plateau that it's on top of, actually, in my opinion, looks like what was natural. Let's go back to Google and I'll show you. Right here, you've got the two mounds that I visited, and then you go across this vast sea of sand. There's no way I could have driven across that. You would have had to find a path. And then you get to this thing. Looks like a freaking seaport. I believe this was a sea right here, and this was a shoreline. And it's going across the top, and it's even been mined and quarried. So it's like, what went on there? But if you look at this, you see this other line here, this escarpment here, looks like it's related to this escarpment over here, named Tichitlit al Afeg, like people live there. There's probably like one person living on there. Anyways, that plateau right there looks to me like that was the older one, and this stuff was literally dumped on there. In my opinion, it's a very weird thing, and you can see. Okay, I forgot to remind you that I found that I found a line going through here. Basically, I'm gonna have to. Sorry, I don't want to lose it. Right there, that line right there. If we go in there, you can see it with your own eyes. This is see stuff like this. A cut through the mountains like that. Now, this is not aligned with my thing because that's on the other side of the beginning. But when we get over to the beginning, it's quite prominent. You can see like maybe this was all water. Maybe it was uplifted. Maybe it is literally millions of years old. But let me get to the part where you can see it. Okay, starting here and cutting through these mountains right here. Do you see that? This is 50 miles long, and it's cutting through the Drar Mountains that are about 2,000 to 1,500 to 2,000 feet high. And that line is literally, you can see it going through even these lower ones. That is a canal that's 50 miles long. Here's another one right here. They're covering it up. They're trying to change it so you can't see it, but it's still there. And it's 50 miles long, and it's going, and where is it pointing? Remember where it points? Where does it point? It points right at the, oops, sorry. I'm trying to impress you. I mean, you can see it here. Let me look at that. It's cutting through bedrock, and you have quarries on both sides. Like they machine the tops of these plateaus, and it's pointing right at the mouth of the Richat. Now, the Richat structure is still another 100 miles away, but it literally points right almost. Okay, so there's bedrock here, there's bedrock over here, and there's a mouth. What created that mouth? If this was full of water, the mouth couldn't have existed. So it had to erode away or something. Or
Well, if you could find
maybe
two pillars on either side, then you have another pillars of Hercules. If you can find
right.
two higher points or two nubs or whatever right there, Owanda, between those two, that opening you're talking about, that would be a second set of pillars of Hercules.
This other side is what's going to blow your mind completely. Look at these lines. Now, these are 6 miles long, and tell me that they're not straight. They're straight lines. They were okay. So Randall Carlson said there were chert outcrops in this structure that were being quarried by somebody hundreds and thousands of years ago. You know, I heard that when I was still in Taiwan, but it didn't register to me what he was talking about.
Then what is chert used for? Because today we just don't mine chert. I mean, yeah, you
Chert
can
is
use it for
next to
some like
quartz.
concrete production thing, but nobody really mines chert. Like, well, what are they mining that for? That's such a different, rock
Well, and
element to
that's
be
just the
mining.
thing. Tell me, okay, when you would look at the video that you can see my, okay, well, if you go to my channel, there's a video that auto plays. It's quite long. It's about 16 minutes long. And I show you the chert outcrops from the ground. It's chaotic. You can't see these lines from the ground. But I did finally start to see, I think there was waterways. I think there were waterfalls. When I first went to the Richat structure, I went here. This is called Fortress number 4. And it's basically military war game stuff, training. There's another one down here called Fortress number 5. And I went there, and I thought this was going to be big boulders. I thought I was going to find big, huge boulders. This is clearer now. But at the time, it looked like these were big white rocks. They're not. They're just, it's nothing special. Piles of rocks. However, I was right next to those chert outcrops. Right here, there's a name here, Hassie Found. And it's about 40 kilometers around. There's no real road going there. I drove the 4x across rocks to get there. Why? Because of these perpendicular lines right here. Those parallel paths were not created by camels. They were created by humans. And according to Randall Carlson, they were quarrying. This is an avenue. But when I went there, I couldn't see this. And I actually got a little lost. I was like, it was chaotic. So these little things sticking up, they are kind of beautiful in a way, especially when you know that they're man-made. But when you're at the ground level, you can't tell. It's too chaotic. But in my opinion, these chert outcrops weren't just for making axe heads. They were quarrying stone and removing it. And that's not really visible here where I went. I've been trying to get over here on the North Shore for a long time now. It's been a real tough trek. But right over here, there's a white blotch. You can kind of see it, but when you zoom in, you can see what's called what I call the Giant's Quarry. They tell me that that is not intelligently created. These big, huge boulders sticking up in rows.
Well,
Why
that
would
was
they do?
one giant piece there that had been cut.
Well, it's not just this. There's a whole bunch. They're very strange. You can see it over here. These are quarry fields. And we don't have a lot of time. Go back to my previous interview. I showed you the stuff in Algeria. I showed you the stuff in Libya. But we're focusing on the Rashad right down here, 6 mile long straight lines starting here and going all the way across. You can see these lines from here, but we'll zoom in and they go all the way over to here. And there's a lot of quarry fields over here. And I used to think this was natural, but now I'm like, oh my God, I used to
The
think these were like,
scallops.
okay, let me tell you one more thing, because you were talking about the North Shore yourself. You recognize this North Shore, but these quarry fields are not at the top and they're not at the bottom. They're just slightly below the top. That's exactly what's happening at the Grand Canyon. So for some reason, they're not interested in getting, you can even see the lines going across here too. They don't look very prominent, but the Giant's Quarry to me is the place I want to visit next. If somebody's going to help me raise money, it's to get there. We're talking about 2 trucks, not just one. Extra gas in the back of the truck. Finding camels to take up here. That 50-mile canal through the Adrar, I went over it quite quickly and I didn't get down into the deep crevices, but it points right at the mouth. Let me get rid of this stuff here. Rashad attributes. Yeah, there. And then when you zoom into the Rashad, you see these white marks up here. And you see that Giant's Quarry right here. Not here, but up here. Up, it's actually down there because this is the highest point on the, well, that's the highest shoreline right there. You've got other stuff going on, but it's right in here, man.
Yeah,
I
the
want to
mineral
go.
deposits right there are outrageous too. I mean,
Right.
that coloration is just pure mineral. I mean, they could mine
I
that for
agree.
centuries.
And then over here, these straight lines that I showed you once, and then I'm going to show you one last thing and we can say goodnight. These things, when you zoom in, by the way, they're covering it up, right? They're obviously making it difficult to align all this stuff, but when you zoom in, when you put it like that, you can see how these line up. They go for 6 miles across this area, and they were quarried. It's not like they just did it and walked away. Look at this part right there. Look at those straight lines. Why would they be so straight? Why would humans do that? I think there were machines. Now, let's talk about one last thing in the Sahara. Over here, you talk about the Kalahari Canals. Look at these. This is not what I want to show you, but it's very close. These things are in Mali near Timbuktu. To me, they look like the Kalahari Canals.
No, super similar.
And they have
But
this
see, they're
river
all
that,
using the outflow of the estuaries there. It could be the Okavango Delta down there where the Kalahari Canals are, or it could be up there in Mali. There, but it definitely shows, yeah, some
well,
sort of like outflow pattern into that rainy season
these are the
delta.
Kalahari. This is what you're talking about right there,
Yeah,
the delta, that inland delta. You don't see something like that.
that's the Okavango Delta.
Right. And over here in Namibia, you've got these ridges. They go for 200 miles. I didn't know
Yeah, but
that
they're
sand.
channeling and capturing that water before it runs out into the Okavango Delta. So instead of damming the water to use for later, they're running those canals down in on the natural drainage pattern ever that rains every year to flood through those areas as a seasonal crop. And then it outflows through the Okavango, and they never really diverted the water. They just let nature take its course. They just made sure that nature flooded through those areas first, going
Right.
down to the natural outflow.
Yeah, because in the Mali one, it does seem to encompass the wait. Gotta be careful. It's over here. And the last thing in Mali that I'm going to show you is I think is gonna be the real smoking gun. Honestly, look at that. That's just too structured, those lines in Mali. And it seems like it disappears into the Sahara, but you do still see straight lines in these sand dunes, right? The sand dunes are also straight. So it's like over there by the Richat Structure, you got the same thing happening. If I show you here, using the Cal Topo, you see this straight same thing with these lines like this. It's like, well, wait a minute, it's almost too perfect. Are those sand dunes created by wind, or are those actually
Well, that'd be created by
something
water.
else?
If you ever seen a beach.
Well, it does look rippled like water. I've always believed that, but to be honest, I was trying to find that. It's a little too difficult. Let
Yeah,
me show
where's
you.
the Mali part there off the Cal Topo for the Mali?
Kind of hard to find. What you do is you right click here, you get the info, you copy the location, you go to Caltopo, you put it in the search bar. Where is that search bar at? Right here?
Coordinates right there, yeah.
There. And then it should go there. I hit the enter button and then it goes right in there. And yeah, you don't see a lot, to be honest. You do actually. You see those lines. They're very clear. You
Oh, there
very
they are. Yeah, that is clear now, huh?
And you see the river cutting through there, the modern day river. But let me show you one last thing in the same area. Sorry, that's I'm going to close that just to get out of there. I'm talking about this. Now, here we are in Mali, and that's where we were just looking. And I guess this is the Chat. What's the river? This river is the Niger River. Niger. But let's go zoom out, and we're going to go into by the way, the guy over here at Conspiracy, he also has a bunch of pictures of this area. He's got a lot of great images. And one of the things he grabs is what I call the Homer Simpson Mountain. Let's see if I can find it. I have to find it this way. Homer Simpson Mountain
Yeah,
is
look at
right.
those straight lines there. That's incredible.
Which one?
The one
Here?
you just had, no, previously, or back there, like one slide
Oh
before.
yeah, that was over there by that one.
No, the one to the right. Yeah, that one right there, the left side.
This is called the Eye of the Desert. So you've got the Eye of the Sahara, you've got the Eye of Africa. This is what I call Homer Simpson. If you turn it over, it kind of has the same face and a big, huge eye. Now, this area is in Mali. It's right here. We can zoom in and find it. I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm wrong. It's over here. This is in Niger. That's what I call the Homer Simpson head. It's upside down. We don't have to look at that, but I do believe those circular dikes are unnatural. And over here in Mali, you have another circular dike here that I question. So circular dikes, I feel like they're fake. But let's look at Telebit, right north of that. I really think this is the smoking gun. We can get some photos. We'll go to photos. Unfortunately, there's not a lot. But when you look at straight lines like that, you have to start thinking about what created those. Now, those straight lines, in my opinion, is overburden dumping. Mansa Musa wealth style dumping. You can find these are called trailings. They're not even ridges. I've shown you volcanic dikes that are actually ridges. These aren't even ridges. They're just piles of rocks.
So that was it. They mined it
However,
in one place, got whatever they did out with the slurry, and then just dumped it and just started lining it,
you just
dump,
dumped
dump,
it.
dump, and
Here,
moving it
let's find
around.
a photo. So Telebit doesn't have these photos, but you've got them up here. These are, I call them trailings, overburden dumping. I can show you, but when you start to see photos and you click on the photos, you start to see what this stuff is all about. Here you can see a main ridge, a side ridge over here, a side ridge over there. They're just piles of rocks. Over here, there's a modern day structure that someone built out of the rocks. But who the heck, what human could lay down these rocks? Ancient advanced civilization, ancient megalithic terraforming. Somebody was mining this earth all over. It's very hard to find pictures, by the way. But here's that one I showed you here. Up here, we may or may not be lucky. We got some soldiers walking through the rocks. They're literally piles of rocks. And take another look at this Telebit one more time. They go back and forth, and sometimes they go north-south. They go diagonally across the top. Whoever dumped these rows of rocks out into the Sahara, they were trying to build a mountain. These are literally piles of rocks. And they're out there and it's creating a mountain.
Or they were
So
just dumping their overburden, and it was just the next layers would have kept it. What stopped all this mining, though, is the question. Like, okay, if they had the technology, they should continue to be mining today. Oh, wait, they are. And the gold reserves are in what we call central banks as repositories, so they can come and pick it up in the same place.
yeah, I think that maybe the burn and dumping was some valuable stuff. Now, by the way, I've shown you this. And if you look at this, it looks like a face, a nose, an eye, a chin,
Mhm.
and lips. And when you zoom into the lips, you've got this stuff going on here. Who did it? I mean, they're perpendicular lines. That means it's not natural, right? If that was a river, why is it so straight? Rivers aren't straight. And you got these perpendicular lines. They don't even touch it. They stop early and then they have diagonal lines that connect. Something was terraforming this area. Somebody was mining it. Look over here. You can't say that's natural anymore. And we don't have any explanation. This is Chad. This is the Tibesti Mountains. Yeah, right down here, you see the same trailings going over mountains. Okay, let's close the desktop sharing and say goodnight.
Well, Stig, that was a mindful, not even, wow, that was like a mind-blowing journey through showing million-year-old technology. If you take a different look at that, that just doesn't really make sense how there's so much rock in layers like that. Even geologically, you look at some of these areas. So thinking of cycles and speaking of cycles, the myths and legends of the planets of giants prior and civilizations prior, using this as an outpost, now a mine, and now a consolidated civilization that mines gold and takes it to a central repository, the central bank. So anyway, if anybody out there
And
has any ideas, leave them in the comment section below. We're going to come around for round two because he's got a bunch more to show me, Northern Africa and different
so
areas
much.
there. So Stig, you got 1 minute. Give us an outro. Go.
Yeah, I showed you I didn't get to show you the ridges that are literally built mountains. I showed you that thing in Telebit, and it's like that made Mansa Musa the richest man on earth. He had enough gold that he was richer than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos combined, apparently. Who knows about the calculation, but he was so rich that it literally changed the price of gold when he went on his pilgrimage. And people wonder, where did he get the gold from? Well, Mauritania was part of the Mali Empire, and then you see these overburdened dumps and wonder, was he inherited that gold is what happened. And there's gold everywhere on this planet. So we've got to collect gold. I want to go gold mining. People wanted gold. I think they wanted something else. It's old. It's like 1 million years old. It's amazing. And it just blows my mind. I have to stop thinking about it sometimes because it just blows my mind. And going to
You
the
got the
Rashad
gold bug, bit you.
3 times in the Rashad structure, going to these other places, trying to get it all hashed out, especially with the political situation. Somebody doesn't want us looking. They're covering it up. It's a conspiracy.
Using politics to cover history, that's only 5 ounces of gold to go exploring, my friend. There's more out there.
Gotta be.
Anyway, we will talk to you next time. Remember to contact
Yeah.
Stig, David Stig Hansen channel there on YouTube or youtube.com/at STIG Stig.
Thank
Reach
you.
out,
Thank you so
help him
much.
support his dreams of searching through history for us and bringing back the findings. Bye for now.
Exactly. Bye bye.